The Earth was on the brink of collapse. Alien ships had stormed the skies for months, leaving destruction in their wake. Cities lay in ruins, and millions of people were left without homes. The human race was struggling to survive, with no way to fight back against the invaders. Earth's governments had tried everything to stop the alien forces: military strikes, advanced weapons, and even alliances with other species. But nothing worked. It seemed like the end was near. Then, in the midst of all the chaos, something unexpected happened. A new alien force arrived. They were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Their ships were enormous. Their technology advanced far beyond anything humans had created. The moment they appeared in the sky, the attacks from the other alien invaders stopped. The humans watched in awe as these new aliens, with their glowing ships and mysterious presence, took control of the sky. They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they simply hovered, showing no aggression, but their mere presence stopped the destruction. A transmission was sent to Earth's leaders. The alien force offered to help. They claimed they could protect Earth from the remaining invaders. But there was a catch. The humans had to trust them. They had to accept their protection and follow their lead. Earth's leaders, exhausted from fighting and seeing their people suffer, were hesitant at first. But with no other options left, they reluctantly agreed. The aliens made their presence known on Earth in ways that seemed almost magical. They repaired the damage caused by the war, rebuilding entire cities in a matter of days. Hospitals and schools that had been destroyed were brought back to life. Power was restored, and life began to return to normal, or what felt like normal in a world torn apart by conflict. The humans couldn't believe their eyes. These aliens were not just offering protection. They were healing the planet, making it better than it had ever been. The Earth's leaders held meetings with the alien commanders. The aliens, who called themselves the Varkari, assured the humans that they had no intention of taking over the planet. They only wanted to help Earth rebuild and defend itself. They spoke of an ancient enemy, a ruthless force that had caused destruction across the galaxy. The Varkari claimed they had been fighting this enemy for centuries, and now they were offering to protect Earth as part of their war. As days passed, Earth's citizens began to feel a sense of peace. For the first time in years, they could sleep without the fear of alien ships invading the night sky. There were no attacks, no bombings. The Varkari provided Earth with advanced technology, including shields that protected cities, drones that patrolled the skies, and weapons that could defend against any invader. It was clear that the Varkari were powerful, but what did they want in return? The humans were told that the Varkari's offer came with one condition. Earth had to remain neutral in the galaxy's ongoing wars. They had to promise not to engage in any military conflicts unless the Varkari asked them to. In exchange, Earth would be shielded from any external threats. The leaders agreed, seeing no other choice. They didn't fully understand why the Varkari were so interested in Earth, but they were desperate, and the peace they now felt was something they weren't willing to lose. As the Varkari's influence grew, life on Earth started to stabilize. The citizens began to trust their alien protectors, believing that the Varkari were saving them from certain doom. The Varkari leaders were often seen in public, reassuring the humans that they would always be there to help, that they would never abandon Earth. This brought a sense of comfort to the people. The world was healing, and it seemed like the worst was behind them. However, there were whispers. Some people, mostly from underground resistance groups, felt uneasy about the Varkari's presence. They asked questions that others didn't dare to. Why were the Varkari so kind to Earth? What did they want in return? These were the same questions that Earth's leaders had quietly asked themselves, but every time they tried to dig deeper, they were met with silence. The Varkari had made it clear that their protection was not to be questioned. Trust was the only way forward, they said. Still, there was an unspoken feeling that something wasn't right. Some began to wonder if the Varkari had ulterior motives. After all, why would such a powerful race care so much about Earth? And why, despite all their technology and kindness, did they insist on secrecy? Days turned into weeks, and the people of Earth began to feel more comfortable under the Varkari's watch. But there were those who couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were being watched, controlled, and manipulated. They wondered if the Varkari's protection came at a price far greater than they could imagine. One thing was clear. Earth's future was in the hands of these mysterious aliens. The promise of protection was a lifeline, but it felt like a thread that could snap at any moment. As Earth citizens went about their daily lives, a sense of unease lingered in the background. The question on everyone's mind was simple. What did the Varkari truly want from Earth? As the humans started to enjoy their newfound peace, they had no idea that the answer to that question was about to change everything. The Varkari's promise of safety would soon be tested in ways no one could predict. And the simple question that no one dared ask would be the spark that ignited a battle for the future of Earth itself. The Varkari had brought peace to Earth, but peace, like everything else, had its price. As the days turned into weeks, the citizens began to enjoy the calm, the safety, and the restored beauty of their cities. Earth, which had once been a battlefield, now felt like a new world. The aliens were everywhere, helping rebuild, offering advanced technology and spreading a message of unity and protection. But as time passed, small cracks began to show. At first, it was nothing too obvious. People noticed that the Varkari never allowed humans to visit their ships. There were always security measures in place, always some reason for humans to stay away. The ships were immense, far bigger than any of Earth's buildings, and yet no one was ever allowed to enter. Only the Varkari, with their strange, glowing eyes and mysterious robes, were permitted to board. The citizens whispered to one another, "Why won't they let us see inside their ships? What are they hiding?" The Varkari told everyone that their technology was too advanced for human understanding. "We protect you," they said, "but we must keep some secrets to ensure your safety." This answer was enough for most, but for some it was the beginning of doubt. The Varkari never truly explained who their enemies were, only hinting at a great battle in the stars that would one day affect Earth. But no one knew who or what the Varkari were truly protecting Earth from. One evening, as the sun set behind the alien ships, a small group of human citizens gathered in a quiet corner of a once famous city now being rebuilt. These people were not part of the government, not high-ranking officers, but ordinary citizens. They worked in factories, schools, and fields, and they had started to notice things that didn't add up. The peace felt too perfect, too controlled. They questioned the sudden, overwhelming sense of safety that seemed to have taken over their lives. It was as though the Varkari were controlling more than just the skies. They were controlling the very hearts and minds of Earth's people. "Why are we not allowed to ask questions?" one man named Marcus whispered. His voice trembled with a mix of fear and curiosity. "Why do they demand trust and silence when it should be the other way around?" Another woman, Claire, nodded. She was a scientist who had worked on Earth's defense systems before the Varkari arrived. "It's not just the ships. It's the way they make us feel like we owe them something. They've never asked us for a single thing, but they've made it clear that we must follow their rules." Her eyes narrowed. "Have you noticed the way they watch us? Like we're nothing more than subjects?" The group grew quiet. They had all been feeling the same unease, but it had been hard to speak out. The Varkari were powerful, and those who questioned them were quickly silenced or made to disappear. No one had dared ask why the Varkari never showed their true faces. Why did they hide their identity behind robes and masks? Who were they, really? A loud noise interrupted their thoughts. Shouts from the distance. The group turned and saw a few soldiers trying to stop a crowd of civilians who were marching toward the alien headquarters. The people were protesting, demanding answers. Why were the Varkari so secretive? Why weren't they allowed to see the weapons and technology the aliens had promised to protect them with? The crowd's shouts grew louder, their anger rising like a storm. Some of them believed the Varkari were lying. Others thought they might be hiding something far more dangerous. Suddenly, a group of Varkari soldiers appeared, their glowing eyes piercing through the darkening air. They walked with calm, deliberate steps, their presence commanding silence. Without a word, they positioned themselves between the crowd and the alien headquarters. The message was clear. Any protest would not be tolerated. Marcus and Claire, along with the others, watched in silence. They felt a chill run down their spines. The Varkari's power was undeniable. But the question remained. Were the Varkari truly here to protect humanity, or was there something more sinister at play? The protests continued for hours, but the Varkari remained unmoved. The civilians were herded away with no violence, but their voices of doubt echoed in the streets. That night, the mood in the city shifted. It was no longer a place of peace and hope. It was a place of uncertainty. The Varkari had provided protection, but they had also provided control. Marcus lay awake that night, staring at the stars outside his window. His mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The Varkari's protection had come at a price, and he feared they were hiding the true cost. They were powerful, yes, but were they truly on humanity's side? Or was Earth simply another piece in their larger, mysterious war? As he drifted off to sleep, Marcus made a decision. He would find the answers. He would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The future of Earth depended on it. And so, the first seeds of rebellion were planted. Humans had been promised safety. But now, with doubt growing like a wildfire, the question was no longer just about protection. It was about freedom, and about who had the right to control humanity's destiny. The days following the protests felt strange. While life continued on the surface, buildings were rebuilt, skies remained free of enemy ships, and the Varkari watched over Earth, something had shifted in the hearts of the humans. Doubt had taken root, and it was spreading. More people began to whisper about the aliens. What were they really after? Why had they chosen Earth? Among the growing number of skeptical citizens, Marcus and Claire had become unlikely leaders. They weren't the most powerful or influential, but their courage inspired others. Word spread quickly of their search for the truth, and soon a small but dedicated group formed around them. They called themselves the Seekers, united by the belief that the Varkari were hiding something far worse than anyone could imagine. The group began meeting in secret, gathering in hidden places far from the watchful eyes of the Varkari soldiers. Marcus and Claire had learned that the Varkari rarely left their headquarters, but they were always monitoring the streets. Every conversation, every movement was tracked, making it nearly impossible to learn anything without risking their lives. Yet they had to know. The question that everyone was afraid to ask had to be answered. One cold evening, Marcus sat alone, looking out over the city. The once beautiful skyline now felt oppressive, a constant reminder that the Varkari were in control. The streets, once filled with life, had become quiet and orderly, with Varkari soldiers patrolling in perfect formation. It was too controlled, too perfect. As he sat lost in thought, Claire appeared beside him. Her face was tense, her eyes full of the same uncertainty that had taken hold of Marcus. "I think we need to do it," she said quietly. "We need to ask the question." Marcus turned to face her. "You mean the one we've all been avoiding?" She nodded. "It's the only way. No more secrets. We need to know the truth." They had both thought about it for days, but now it seemed like the only path forward. The humans needed answers, and the aliens needed to understand that their lies would not be tolerated. The time had come to confront the Varkari, to ask the one question that would shake everything to its core. But how would they do it? The Varkari were untouchable. No one dared question them openly. The only way to reach the heart of the Varkari's power was to approach them directly. The following day, Marcus, Claire, and a few others made their way to the alien headquarters. It was an imposing structure, unlike anything built by humans. Towering spires of metal twisted upward, glowing faintly with an eerie light. The air around it hummed with the strange energy that powered the Varkari's technology. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Standing before the entrance, Marcus felt his heart race. This was it. He was about to ask the question that would change everything. "Are you ready?" Claire asked, her voice low. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "I have no choice." As they walked toward the grand doors, a group of Varkari soldiers appeared. Their glowing eyes locked onto the humans, their movements smooth and precise. There was no warmth in their gaze, only calculation. The soldiers stepped aside without a word, allowing Marcus and his group to enter the building. The air inside was cold, sterile, and filled with a quiet hum. It felt like a place designed to keep secrets. The group was led through winding corridors, their footsteps echoing on the polished floors. They were taken to a large chamber, where the Varkari leaders waited, sitting in shadowed seats that seemed to absorb the light. There were no smiles, no gestures of goodwill, only silence. One of the leaders, a Varkari known as Varka, stood to face them. His voice was like a soft whisper, but it carried a weight that demanded attention. "You've come to ask your question," he said, his eyes glowing faintly. Marcus felt a shiver run down his spine, but he refused to back down. This was the moment he had been waiting for. This was his chance to finally get the answers. "Yes," he said, his voice steady. "We want to know, why Earth? Why did you choose us? Who are you really protecting us from?" There was a long pause. The silence in the room was thick, like the calm before a storm. The Varkari didn't move, didn't speak. For a moment, Marcus wondered if they would simply ignore the question, as they had done so many times before. Then Varka stepped forward, his glowing eyes fixed on Marcus. "You should not have asked," he said, his voice colder now. "Some questions are better left unasked." Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. "I need to know. We all need to know." Varka's lips curled into what might have been a smile, but there was no warmth in it. "The truth is not for you to understand," he said, his tone laced with warning. "But I will tell you this. Earth is not just a planet. It is a piece in a much larger game. And your question, Marcus, has already set things into motion. The protection we offer will soon be tested, and you will learn that the enemy you face is far worse than anything you can imagine." Marcus's stomach sank. This wasn't the answer he had expected, but it was the answer he needed. The Varkari had just confirmed everything he feared. Their protection was a lie. There was something far darker at play, and now the Varkari had drawn humanity into it. "From whom are you protecting us?" Claire demanded, stepping forward. "Who is this enemy?" Varka's eyes narrowed. "That is a question you will soon have the answer to. But be warned, Marcus and Claire, some truths are better left buried." With those words, the room grew colder. The Varkari soldiers stepped forward, surrounding them, their eyes glowing brighter, their presence more threatening than ever before. Marcus realized that they had just crossed a line. The question had been asked, and now there was no turning back. The atmosphere inside the Varkari headquarters grew tense, like a storm building on the horizon. Marcus and Claire stood frozen, surrounded by the eerie glow of the Varkari's watchful eyes. The words Varka had spoken echoed in their minds. "The enemy you face is far worse than anything you can imagine." But what did that really mean? Who could possibly be worse than the terrifying alien invaders they had already faced? As the Varkari soldiers closed in, their movements synchronized and unsettling, a deep sense of fear took hold of Marcus. He had asked the question that had been on every human's mind, the question that no one dared to speak aloud. But now, as he stared into the cold, unblinking eyes of the Varkari, he realized that the truth was not just buried, it was locked away in a place that could destroy them all. Varka's voice broke the silence. "You've gone too far, Marcus. The moment you sought answers, you invited disaster. You think you're ready to know the truth, but the truth is not something that can be shared lightly. It changes everything." Claire's eyes narrowed, her voice steady despite the tension. "We can handle the truth. We deserve to know what we're up against. What are you hiding from us?" Varka's lips twisted into something resembling a smile, but it was empty, like a predator's grin before the strike. "You think you deserve the truth? You've barely begun to understand the reality of the universe. Earth is just a pawn in a much larger war, a war that will soon come to your doorstep." A shiver ran down Marcus's spine. "What war? Who is the enemy? Who are you really protecting us from?" The Varkari leader seemed to consider Marcus's words for a long moment, then turned to the nearest wall. With a single motion of his hand, the wall flickered and came to life, revealing a holographic projection of an enormous fleet, an armada of ships far larger and more menacing than the Varkari's own. The ships were unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, dark, jagged, and bristling with weapons that looked as if they were designed to tear entire planets apart. "This is the enemy," Varka said, his voice low and serious. "The Harakoth, a species of monstrous beings born from the deepest, darkest corners of the galaxy. They are relentless, consuming everything in their path. They destroy entire civilizations for sport. You can't reason with them. You can't negotiate. They will stop at nothing to wipe out all life." Marcus stared at the hologram in shock. The Harakoth looked like nothing he had ever imagined. Beasts, made of metal and flesh, with eyes that burned with hatred. He felt a chill run through his body. "Why haven't we ever heard of them? Why haven't you warned us?" "The Harakoth are a legend to most of the galaxy," Varka said, his tone cold. "Only a few of us know the truth. The Varkari are one of the few races to have survived their attacks. But we are not just protecting you. We are preparing you." "Preparing? Us for what?" Claire asked, her voice rising. "You've been controlling us, feeding us lies. What have we really been preparing for?" Varka's eyes glowed brighter. "For the end of everything." The words hit Marcus like a slap to the face. He couldn't comprehend what Varka was saying. The end of everything? What did that mean? Was Earth really going to be destroyed? The hologram shifted, showing a vast battlefield, a clash between the Varkari and the Harakoth. The Varkari were losing, outnumbered and overwhelmed by the monstrous enemy. Marcus saw ships exploding, cities burning. The Harakoth were unrelenting, pushing forward with a savagery that seemed beyond anything even the Varkari could withstand. "This is what awaits you, Marcus," Varka continued. "The Harakoth have already set their sights on Earth. They will not rest until your planet is nothing more than a memory. The Varkari have been here to keep Earth safe and for now. But we can't protect you forever. The time will come when the Harakoth arrive. And when that happens, you will have to decide. Will you stand with us and fight? Or will you fall to the darkness?" Marcus felt his heart race. The weight of Varka's words hit him hard. It was all happening so fast. Everything the humans had fought for, all their hopes for peace, were now in jeopardy. The Varkari, the ones who had promised Earth safety, were not just protectors. They were war-weary survivors of a battle that no one could win. And Earth was caught in the middle. "We need time," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "We need to prepare. We need to fight back." Varka stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You think you're ready to fight the Harakoth? They are unlike anything you can imagine. No army, no weapon, no shield can stop them. You must understand. When they come, it will not be a battle. It will be the end of everything." Claire clenched her fists. "We will fight. We won't give up without a chance." Varka shook his head slowly. "It is not about giving up, Claire, it is about survival. And the question you should be asking now is not whether you will fight, but whether you will be ready when the Harakoth arrive." Marcus could feel the weight of those words hanging in the air like a heavy storm cloud. Everything they thought they knew was falling apart. The Varkari were not just guardians, they were desperate survivors, and Earth was about to be thrust into a battle for its very existence. The question now wasn't whether they could survive. It was whether they could fight back. The revelation about the Harakoth shattered everything Marcus and Claire thought they knew. The Varkari had come to Earth not just as protectors, but as desperate survivors, fighting to hold back an unstoppable force. But the truth they had uncovered raised a new, terrifying question. How could humanity hope to survive against such an enemy? The days that followed were filled with a growing sense of urgency. Earth's leaders, once content to trust in the Varkari's protection, now found themselves scrambling for answers. The citizens of Earth, still recovering from the chaos the previous invaders had caused, were told nothing. The Varkari had made it clear that the truth was too dangerous to share with the masses. But Marcus, Claire, and the rest of the Seekers knew better. The people had to be prepared. They had to know what they were up against. The first step in their fight for survival was simple: knowledge. Marcus, Claire, and the Seekers worked tirelessly, collecting information, learning everything they could about the Hrakoth. The more they learned, the more horrifying the truth became. The Hrakoth were a race of pure destruction, with no mercy, no compassion, only a lust for annihilation. They had wiped out entire civilizations in their wake, leaving nothing but ash and dust. The Varkari were their only survivors, but even they knew they couldn't hold back the darkness forever. Despite the overwhelming fear, there was no room for panic. Humanity had to find a way to fight, and that's when the first spark of hope appeared. A hidden network of underground scientists, engineers, and former soldiers, people who had never trusted the Varkari completely, revealed that they had been secretly working on their own defense systems. They had been developing weapons and technology based on what the Varkari had shared, but also on their own understanding of the universe. It was a small group, but their work could make all the difference. The most crucial discovery was a weapon unlike any the Varkari had shown. It was a technology that could potentially disrupt the Hrakoth's advanced energy shields. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. The scientists called it the Solstice Beam, a weapon that could destabilize the Hrakoth's energy systems long enough to allow humans to launch a counterattack. The only problem was that it had never been tested in battle. "We have one shot," Claire said, her voice filled with determination. "If this works, we can cripple their fleet before it even reaches Earth." But the Solstice Beam was a prototype. It needed a team of skilled soldiers and engineers to operate, and it required a massive amount of energy, far more than anything Earth's military had ever produced. To make it work, they would need to use the most powerful energy sources available, and that meant heading into uncharted territory, the alien ruins beneath the ocean. The ocean had always been a mystery. Deep under the surface, in the most dangerous trenches of the planet, ancient alien ruins lay untouched by the Varkari. These ruins contained unimaginable power, relics from a civilization long lost to time. It was a gamble, but it was the only chance they had. Marcus, Claire, and a small team of the most capable humans, soldiers, engineers, and scientists, prepared to dive into the depths. As they boarded the submersible, the tension in the air was palpable. The water outside was pitch black, a cold, endless abyss. The stakes could not have been higher. They were about to risk their lives to activate a weapon that might give humanity its last hope of survival. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked, his voice steady, though his nerves were on edge. "This is the moment we've been waiting for." Claire nodded. "We don't have a choice. If we don't act now, the Hrakoth will arrive and it will be the end." As the submersible descended into the depths, the sense of isolation was overwhelming. The walls of the craft groaned under the pressure of the crushing depths, and the eerie silence of the deep ocean surrounded them. Time seemed to stretch, but there was no turning back. The ruins, hidden beneath layers of rock and ancient coral, slowly came into view. The alien architecture was unlike anything humans had seen. Vast, intricate structures that shimmered with a strange, otherworldly light. "Are we sure we can trust these ruins?" one of the engineers asked, his voice tinged with fear. "This technology, we have no idea what it could do to us." Marcus turned to him. "We don't have a choice. We either use this power or we lose everything." As they carefully navigated the underwater labyrinth, the team found what they were looking for: an enormous energy core surrounded by alien machinery. It pulsed with an unnatural glow, a force unlike anything the humans had ever encountered. But it was unstable. The power within the core was immense, and one wrong move could destroy everything. "This is it," Claire whispered, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "We activate this, and we're committing to the fight." Marcus stepped forward, looking at the power core with a mixture of awe and dread. "We don't just fight for survival. We fight for the future of Earth, for everyone we've lost and for everyone we still have." With that, they powered up the core. The energy surged, flooding the submersible with light and power. It was working. The solstice beam was coming online, but then something unexpected happened. A tremor shook the submersible. The walls cracked and the light from the core flickered. The power was too much for the system to handle. Panic set in. They had only minutes before the entire structure would collapse. "Get us out of here," Marcus shouted. The team scrambled, trying to escape the unstable ruins. The energy pulse from the core intensified, and suddenly the submersible shot upward, breaking free from the depths and crashing through the surface of the ocean. They had survived, but the solstice beam was fully activated, ready to be used against the Hrakoth. As they reached the surface, Marcus and Claire looked out over the horizon. The battle was coming, and now humanity had a weapon of unimaginable power. The question remained, would it be enough to stop the Hrakoth before they arrived?